So that's us. Now we're going to figure out who you guys are. So I'm going to turn this over to Jada.
Okay, so we're going to play a game so everybody's in. So everybody has to stand up and get in a big circle.
Should we hold hands?
I was going to say, it's hard in this room, too.
Okay, so to play this game, you have to say an adjective and then you have to say your name. But the adjective has to start with the same letter as your name. So like for me, I'll say jumping Jada, and that like will describe me, okay? So I'll say jumping Jada, and then I'll pass it on.
Ridiculous Robin.
Lovely Lisa.
Home Paul.
Happy Heather. Joyful Jill. Picking Crystal.
Laughing Lorraine.
Moving Morgan.
Jumping Joni.
Lovable Lady.
Catch-all Courtney.
Cool Chris. John Jim.
Awesome Annette.
Marvelous Marie.
Enthusiastic Emily.
Magnificent Melissa.
That was great. And that was a lot faster.
Yeah, now we're going to go back, like I said, now everybody has to repeat in order, everybody's name, all the way around.
Just the name.
Do you think you can do it? Can anybody do it in this group? You're thinking about it.
I know.
I could do like
You're
that.
Robin.
Do this.
You should tell us that.
Oh, okay.
I know, we all
Yeah.
Read in the
That's
car.
right there.
Gotta read in the car.
So do you guys know each other?
This
Okay,
Everybody else is cool.
okay, and then, do you guys know each other?
I'm friends, these three.
Okay, awesome. So part of the reason why we do introductions, and I know as teachers it's kind of like, you're making this kid up, but it's really important that we kind of get an idea of who all is in the group. And this is everything that I do today, I would do in a classroom. I would model it with students. So we do start out by doing some silly, you probably get, do climate culture building in your classrooms, icebreakers, team, building stuff like that. But it's really super important in a PBL classroom because students are going to be working with students that they've never worked with before, and it's like we all do, we gravitate towards the people that we know and that we're most comfortable with. But PBL sometimes forces kids to work outside their comfort zone, and it's a process. Just like adults, it takes us a long time to work with people we're not quite familiar with or don't know. Kids have to go through that process and have opportunities to do this. Okay, so that's just a simple little way. You guys can have a seat now. Oh, all right. Okay, so we're talking about PBL, project-based learning. Sometimes people call it problem-based learning. There is a difference. And what I really want this group to decide, what we have to kind of start out with, is what is PBL? Okay. So what do you think project-based learning is? We're going to use this model here today as kind of the framework for when we're talking about PBL and taking kids through the steps of PBL. Before we do that, you'll see two Post-it notes up here. Okay? You can thank Liz on this one. Because you can do this right at your desk with your computer. If you have got a computer or a device and you want to, and you're not following already and you want to follow, what I would like you to do is to click on the link, what is PBL? Okay? And I want you to tell me, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes for you to tell me what PBL is. Okay? Now, if you don't have a device, it's okay. Because we've got,
Here's the URL to the presentation.
I like that color. So you're going to click on the link, what is PBL? And this is Padlet. And and you should be able to give a response.
The tiny URL takes you to the presentation. And then this takes you to the Padlet.
So I need everybody in here, just give me a response. What do you think PBL is?
You just double click on the screen anywhere.
Oh, I didn't. I thought that was somebody's information.
I'm just clicking away. There we go.
You might need help getting to double click on there and then it should be able to.
There you go. And then put your name in there and start with.
I'm sure they're all.
Yeah,
Right?
it's the S.
Yeah. Showing on page, I'm looking for a title. Oh, help me. Oh, duh. That and a half line.
That's a long one. You must be a history teacher.
All right, we should have a few more responses. And then I'll give you
We
another.
need to go ahead and do the, what it's not to.
Let's do what it is first, okay? So, anybody need a minute or two to finish? Okay. If you, did Post-it notes, I'll collect those. We'll do a combo here. Okay, and then what I would like is for Emily and Heather and Holly. Would you three come over here to this station? And you guys, okay, you guys working together here, you just share space. You're going to take what everybody has said in group, both on the computer and on me, and group them together. So find things you like,
There you go. Just click off
put
that.
them together, and then you're going to share out and summarize.
I'm gonna record them.
Dragging. Oh,
And so like now, you guys, did I get yours? Okay. So now, you guys, you need to like relax for a minute. All hard work over here. The pressure is off.
I'm gonna go behind you guys so I can see what you're
And we'll
doing.
give them a few minutes. What they're doing is they're grouping. Okay? So like that. So school district, where are you guys? The high school, okay, so Thomas Nelson County, 3 high schools. 2. Nelson County. And then 3.
Horizon, Charles Brown School, Horizon.
Oh, okay.
Nelson County High School and your Thomas Nelson.
Okay. Got it.
So I just click on a start.
I think we got a lot that are like hands-on, I think that could be good for. And then a lot that are about like asking questions like solving
Everything, I'm an
problems.
instructional coach.
Got it. So you're a catch-all person.
This one says
Jane
student
of all
directed,
trades.
student centered.
Yeah.
Alternative school horizons, if you're starting in the
Okay. Horizons? Okay. So I gotta talk to you guys, because that's kind of
There's
like.
another one too. This is a positive.
Oh!
move?
Positive Holly over here. Got it. And then you
There's a
guys,
story behind it.
Not that organized.
back here.
Click on the gravity.
Double clicking or just?
No, I'm just
Are you all?
I don't know if you can because you don't own it. I think
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
only
I
you,
really do
because
have to
I own that Padlet. That's why.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think?
I got one more.
Biology? Okay. Got it.
There's only one high school.
So one high school, yeah.
I have to go there. For next.
Oh, yeah, we, it was probably Bevins, maybe, or Marie Richards. It's so big. Yeah. We're trying, this will be interesting because, we're trying to combine
what?
STP, and our,
Okay, so anything that's
robotics team. And then there's another group which is trying to combine all real world stuff. So, it would actually, I think, be really smart, is that you combine resources.
I feel like you've done a whole thing.
You know?
Do you want me to switch?
The library.
No, I'm so bad.
Thank you. Alright, and then real world.
Like real world problems, like solving problems, that kind of stuff.
Something with maybe have
Real life learning. Learning by doing. There's several of those where it's
I put that on Facebook.
You know,
what about this one?
and see, I just realized you guys.
So over here, asking a question, deciding what doesn't have to solve the question, and find
Did you get to specialize in skills?
It's the owner of the Padlet to move on. And since I own that Padlet, they can move it on that computer.
Oh, we never done it.
Yeah, Thursday.
Strictly the ones that talk about those kind of in the middle. Like make this the right one of
The Venn diagram.
There's a lot of things.
Is that solving problems?
We did that.
Okay, so now tell me let's move to the middle.
I think more on the left side, finding the middle than the other side.
I'm gonna go into that other name.
Like a green.
You know,
The Lisa Lowe one.
you know, you think, like, that's what. So that's, you know, I kind of like, we had
Or maybe the Joni one, because it says real world.
Over here,
Yeah, in the middle.
in the middle.
Oh, there's one way down there.
Start,
Here.
well, yeah, that's, happens a lot in our, we're still scheduled. They were still scheduled on Thursday.
Good. Good.
Go project. When, see, that's the thing.
See it all up there on the board.
So how are you all?
I think I may have to, like decrease the size of that. You can, or you can stay. Do those bits. I'll give you good.
And then roughly 60.
Is that all of them? At the moment?
They originate from the other two high schools. So like, they had 22 graduates, the ones that originated from the walked with them and the ones that walked with us.
Okay, are we good? We're ready? All right. So would you guys, check out their task was to take our thoughts on what PBL is and to kind of organize it. And they're going to share it with our group here.
Okay, so our first column over here on the left side was mostly hands-on learning, learning by doing. Those were the highlights there.
And then on the right side, it was more about like solving problems and like real world relationship with the project.
And then the part is just combining it too.
Okay. So we've got, this side is learning by doing, a lot of hands-on. This side is solving problems, real world. This is combination. Yeah, of both. Okay. Would anybody in here need to add anything? Is there anything else we need to add to what you think PBL is? Or anybody like disagree, say, no, it is not that.
The word I wish I'd added to mine is flexible. I would think that you have to be very flexible and very responsive to what's going on without chasing a rabbit too far out that you're not getting the content that you
Done
intended in the first place.
See what she did.
Okay. Okay, maybe we add that in then. Flexibility.
Someone did. Thank you.
That. Anything else we want to add? This is good.
More student driven.
Okay. Let's put that in there too.
One of these says student driven.
So
This one right
student driven?
here says student
Okay.
directed, student centered.
Good.
So I guess teacher in role of facilitator.
Okay. All right, great. So we can kind of work with these, this basic idea. Okay, student facilitator, student driven. All right, great. Thank you guys for organizing those. All right, so if we have kind of an idea, student driven, hands-on, real world, solving problems, what would PBL not be? Okay, go back to your slideshow here. And over on this side here, what it's not, tell me then, what are your thoughts? What is PBL not? Okay. And if you need another post-it note, let me know. Those would be good post-it. So what is PBL not? What is not? So what is not PBL? I'll give you another minute or two to finish up. Let's go through all the days I can think of. Okay, so what we'll do now is I've got 3 motions over here. They're gonna come over and we're gonna do the same exact thing. You're gonna take just a couple minutes and organize them into, see if we can come up with any kind of themes or likeness for what is not real. Are you listening to these?
It was,
Yeah, like she killed 3 of them. One of them, she forgot to put water back in the thing, so like didn't have enough moisture, like trapped through the thing. I wouldn't say she killed them like that. Then
One she
I thought
killed.
it was Michigan.
One she first killed.
Oh, no, the boys did, because it was separate. Yeah.
Glad after that, I wasn't
I
gonna.
wouldn't have been able to do that.
We buried some chickens this year. Well, I guess they weren't taking.
They're like peanuts.
It was like, I don't know, they were still in development. But it was a great, I'm telling you what, that's, you got to in 3rd grade.
No, we're in high school.
So I was gonna say, well, we never done it at the high school, who ever hatched chickens before, and so, we did it, and it was like the best experience ever.
Is that what you were talking about?
I've never seen high school kids more excited in my life.
They come back just to see.
Oh, yeah. It was like, they were all over GRC network. I was like waiting to get screened at. Project with their.
Cookie cutter project, so yeah.
Okay, so, all right, so our group here, what did you guys come up with?
Okay.
What is not?
So what is not, on the left-hand side, all of these people have in common, we talked about, it's not a worksheet, it's not the kids sitting still in their desk. On the right, it talked about direct instruction, all the teachers up there lecturing. And then the 2 in the middle, they talked about projects, but it was more like cookie cutter projects. All the kids, the projects looked the same, they weren't any different.
Okay, great. All right, awesome. What can we add? Would anybody want to add to this list of what PBL is not? Can you have cookie cutter projects in PBL? Like everybody say, we're going to do chickens. Everybody's going to hatch chickens, and we're all going to follow the development. And then in the end, we're going to have the same outcome maybe in terms of the product. Would that be PBL?
Did the kids get some choice in their method of development, or like are they learning, or are they just following my recipe card to make whatever it is?
The cookie cutter to me is the product, the chocolate, and the product, everybody's product looks
Exactly
exactly
the
the
same.
same. But not necessarily the process, but if their product is different, they've been allowed to use, yeah, so
Authentic
product, yes.
products.
You can see their learning and thinking in it.
Okay.
It's not the teacher's prescribed, it's not the teacher's prescription.
Right. Because I think a lot of times when we think of projects, we think of like the volcano projects or something. When kids are little, and it's like every single kid comes in with the same volcano project. That kind of thing. So we need to move from this. How do we get from teacher-directed instruction and cookie cutter and lecture and sit and get and all that to a true student-driven classroom? That's the question. Yeah. Okay. Is it easy? Sometimes, but not always. All right, and in my opinion, and from the experience I've had. So, what we can look at here is, you know, And just like I told the other group, when you start Googling, and you guys, since you have devices out and stuff like this, I mean, feel free to start adding things. When we look at PBL and we look at what it is and what it's not, there's a lot of different people saying a lot of different things. But there are some common strands that run through. We're going to find student-driven, okay, and student engagement, and a lot of student passion on things. It's going to be products and outcomes, something authentic in the end. And it's also about a process, and this is what we're going to talk about. So what I'm going to try to model for you guys, and what we're going to do in this group session today, is kind of walk you through what I would do with my classroom. Okay? So, and you guys, it's kind of funny because a lot of times teachers are very much like the students that I have, because I have, I don't have all Jadas, and I'll say we're coming from different experiences. I typically deal with students that do not want to be at school. They are coming from jail. They get placed with me. Sometimes we do have an alternative school. We have a day treatment / alternative school, and I work really closely with them. So sometimes I get them 2 days a week. Sometimes I get them the whole time. Most kids that I have want to be home. They want to be working, and they are not engaged. Matter of fact, I wish I had a slide, because I pulled it out last night. I did this really, just a so simple thing one day, because sometimes I'm a real positive, bubbly person, but sometimes I just am positive Polly, wink, wink, that whole oh man. And I came in one day and I'm just I saw them on TED Talks, and I drew, basically, it was something kind of like this, and I just did it on the fly. It wasn't anything planned. But I asked them before we even, because a lot of times I'll make them, before they're even allowed to come in my room, I'm like, okay, here's a challenge. Organize yourselves, I'll make up crazy random things, like put yourself in order by your birthday and who's first in class. And they get real frustrated, I go, I just let it in the room, walk in the room. So I try to make them want to come in, I do silly things like that. But before they should come in the room, I did this thing, and I had a line, and I had everybody in my room put ourselves on a line. And so it's like, over here, you're overworked, and you're exhausted. What do we call that? Teacher. Today is what we call that. Burnout, right? And that happens a lot with us. We get burned out. So you got burnout. And I can't spell. So. Okay, and then over here you've got the opposite, which is you're just overwhelmed. And sometimes when you're overwhelmed, you just can't even you're a deer in headlights. But then right here, down here in this little corner, I said, what are you? If you're not, you're not burned out, you're not overwhelmed, you're just done. You're just done. Every one of my kids identify themselves in this spot right here. They're apathetic. I said, you know what apathy means? You don't even. They're like, no. We don't know. And I'm like, we don't care. They just don't care. Literally about anything. Okay? Those are the kids I work with primarily. And so, as positive and bubbly and awesome and passionate and excited as I am, I deal with people that I'm met with, I don't want to be here. It doesn't matter what you think hurting the straps. It's really difficult. So it's always a challenge, But there is a process, okay? And it is about using that process to connect kids, to be passionate, and to find what drives them, and to connect them so that they are in some way, involved in their learning. Really. So the reason why I had you guys kind of work through the getting to know you thing, or the names, and then the whole thing about having people go up, and then let's all kind of debrief in that thing, is because that's what I modeled for a long time. The whole year is basically modeling that, okay? And that's because a lot of times people think teachers are experts, and I am not an expert. I don't even like saying teacher. I'm just kind of like the person in the room. I'm facilitating you guys with your knowledge and your learning. So it takes a long time to develop that culture, though, because kids, and a lot of even through the highest level ones, no matter if they're elementary, if they're high school, they are the number ones that want to come in and just give it to me. Lay it on me. AP, you just give me a stack of work, and I'll turn it in, but then you start to challenge them, and you start to say, well, no, like, put it on you, flip the classroom, and then there's like, and then they get overwhelmed, and they're like, I can't do it. So it's really helping kids develop a culture where they can start having some ownership and then take them through this process. Okay, so there's always a process with this. And part of that is starting out, the most important part, I think, is starting out with a question or a challenge. Okay, so no matter what content area or what age level or where you come from as an administrator or a teacher or a library media specialist, if you're going to start trying PBL in your area, you've got to think about what do I want them to do. Okay, so and this can be kind of tricky because you come back to, well, maybe the students should just decide. Let's just have them. If it's truly student driven, let's have them think of like things that they can do, and that works sometimes. And I have had experience where students have come to me and said, hey, like one student I used earlier, she was like, I just thought about this. We have all this stuff in our room, and why don't we just do prom? Like we could totally contact the prom committee, and we could help them build all this stuff, and that could count as community service, and da 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 da. And I'm like, hey, go run with it. And she, put it on her because she had that driving, passion to do that. Again, that doesn't always work with the students that we have, and a lot of times they are apathetic. And you ask them, what do you decide about this stuff? They're just, they're just like, no, they don't have anything. So sometimes you have to come up with it. So the way I think about it is like this. It can either be a question or a challenge, and it can either be, I categorize it into two groups. Either something that is a deep philosophical question or something that you get an outcome for, or something tangible. Okay, so I like to pretend I'm deep philosophical, and I like questioning things and ponder deeply. So I tend to gravitate towards that. When I was in the social studies position and teaching sociology and that kind of stuff, that's more, how is your life meaningful? How can you, sustain yourself throughout your life? Those kind of questions are really like hard questions to think about. But it doesn't always have to be that way, all right? And that one, that how is your life meaningful, is a great resource to follow is High Tech High. And I just pulled that one. You should Google them or get on Twitter and see some of the stuff they post. They are just an amazing resource. And I know some folks in Kentucky have actually gone to California and visited their school. And if you were part of the UK Next Generation cohort, they actually sent some people here from High Tech High. Their entire school, and it is elementary all the way to high school, is all PBL, like 100% PBL, the real deal. And all of their teachers collaborate. All of their units are interwoven together. And so they do some really neat things. But I saw last week somebody was teaching Into the Woods. If you've seen that video for the movie with the girl, or if you've read the book, she had a life crisis, and she's like, I'm walking the Pacific coast, and I get. So that was his, how he's starting his driving question is, how can you make your life meaningful? Right? That would be a philosophical question. But it doesn't always have to be, like I said. Sometimes they can be like an outcome based, and I'm not sure where that one went, but what's it?
The challenge?
It was like a garden. And those are really the ones that we have done. We'll see it.
What did it look like?
It was the rooftop garden. But the major PBL kind of outcomes that we've had this year has been things that you could see, okay, like end products. So, for example, a driving question that our principals did to start us out this year was our assistant principal went up and had him in his office, and she said, listen, I'm going to video you, and I want you to talk to Ms. Grimes' 6th period class. You send them this message, and she's going to play in class. So his message, he's all official and everything. He says, listen, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm Dave Bullen, I'm your principal, and I am going to lay this out here. You guys have been chosen to tackle the issue of our rooftop green space. Okay, we have a brand new facility. It's a beautiful school, just a couple years old. We have a rooftop, as you can see right here, a rooftop green space that is connected to like 4 science rooms. When we were on the facilities planning out the school for years, we had all these visions of, oh my gosh, it's going to be great. Biology classes are going to be out there, and chemistry classes are going to be out there, and we're going to be like growing food and taking it in, and we're going to have all this awesome stuff going on. Well, it's year 2, and we have nothing, right? And so it's really sad, and it's a huge problem, and we're like, we got to do something. So Mr. Bowman told my students, okay, here's the deal, your grades, basically, this is it. You need to be prepared to present proposals, and you need to speak in front of me, site-based, the superintendent, and Board of Education. And you've got 3 weeks. Something like that.
2, 3, 4.
2, 3 weeks. Okay, deadline is this right here. Okay, so like I turned it off, and then I think some of them were like, real our grade, like we're gonna get greater. And then I think some of them were like, oh my gosh, like just got excited, awesome, like, oh, we can do all this stuff. That was their first task, okay? So I helped them through the process, and I'm going to let Jada talk a little bit about the process that we went with the rooftop green space. So kind of what did we do? Tell them like the overall of how we went from Mr. Boland giving us the driving question to where we ended up where we are now.
Okay, so like when we first figured out what we were doing, we kind of would do we started out by like doing research somewhat as a class, and just look at everything. And then we would split off into groups. We had like 3 categories. There was like soil, water, and plants. So like as the groups, we would like search. We would be like, oh, we need this soil because it's lighter than this one. And we figured out everything. We had to figure out the size and the space we had to plant things. So as different groups, like we would split up based on basically what we liked better. Like I liked the plants, so I went and helped the plant group. But then some people really want to do the soil because they could soil test, or the water because they could test the water quality. So we just all split up and went to where we thought we would like to go. And then after that, we would get together with our group, and we just all talked about everything. We figured everything out. We would do a lot of writing things down and brainstorming. And then after every group had everything together, we would kind of, each specific group presented in front of teachers and students and principals. They would just come through, and we all got 1 day to present. And then after that, our whole class came together, and we talked about everything, and then we put one big speech together, kind of thing, so we could talk to the site base. So after we put that together, three of us, I think, 3 or 4 of us got together and split it up into parts, what we would say whenever we talked to site base. So when we talked to site base, we told them everything we wanted to do. We had to tell them our budget. We had to tell them, what was the end goal that we wanted, making it pretty, look for people to see, so we didn't just look like it was a big junky place outside. So after we talked to them that day, we actually made $250 to provide plants. And when we tried to buy them, we ended up getting them donated. So we still have our $250 for next year, and yeah.
So they, it was a process, right? So you can't just say to people, okay, let's get in groups. Who wants to do plants? I mean, we did to a degree, but to get to that point, what we did is we first figured out who we had in the room. So, and this is what I would do. If we were going to tackle a problem right now or come together and figure something out, I want to know who is sitting in here and who can do what skills people have. So what we did is we took big rolls of bulletin board paper and went all the way around the room I don't know how many times. And literally, I asked kids, I'm like, okay, well, what skills do people have? Are you bilingual? Okay, so we made a category, bilingual. Okay, do you have a driver's license? Okay, who can drive? All right, who's had AP environmental science, AP chemistry, AP biology, AP. Okay, and then there's those kids that are we had one student in our class that was a perfect score in the ACT. He's smart. He can do math. He can do math that most, I can't do math. You know what I mean? So we're okay, he's the mathematician. We're going to get him doing all that math that I'm not going to do. So we figured out who's had 3 levels of carpentry. Perfect. You work great with Mr. McKinney. You're going to be our contact person. You're going to build everything for us. Build all the raised beds. Build all that kind of stuff. You have to figure out who can do what. Obviously, there are people that have speaking skills and that, the Jadas of the world who can get up on the fly and can talk and present themselves. You know, when you do authentic, real world presentations like this, and some of you may have experience and you agree with me. Like, I don't want to just put anybody up in front of our superintendent and say, ask for thousands of dollars. You know what I mean? Without giving them, it's not fair to them, and it's, you know, it makes us look bad without giving them the opportunity to really practice. And this is, I think, sometimes we're lacking in this because we're like, we don't have time. Who has time to practice speeches? We don't have time to practice speeches. We got to move on with this, and this. But we did. Like, I made them do it over and over, the same thing, just to give them the opportunity for people to give them feedback, and feedback hurts sometimes. I mean, you know, it's hard to take that in, but they need to have that real world experience to do that. So that was one outcome. Another example, you talk about flexibility. It's kind of funny. If nothing else, I have a lot of faults, and I admit it, but I am probably the most flexible person on the planet. I am just a pretty, would you not agree on that?
I agree.
I am flexible, you know. Sometimes teachers, like, the schedule changes or like this, and I'm just like, oh, it's all right, you know, just keep going with the flow. So you have to be flexible, and I'm not talking like loosey-goosey crazy, but you have to have some degree of letting control go. And it's hard. Teachers want to just hold it all, you know, but you got to let go a little bit and walk away sometimes. The second example, and this is kind of related to that, is I had two people who called me from the community, and they were like, hey, we've got this idea that we want to revitalize Winchester, downtown Winchester. And I'm like, okay. They're like, hey, can you come and help us, like, you know, do some stuff? And I'm like, well, why don't you just come to my class? So they came in, and they basically were like, okay, we're putting it on you all, these kids. And they said, how can we revitalize downtown? And it was awesome. It was like, it gives me chills thinking about it. They called it Remain North, and I have all kinds of stuff that I'm going to bring and show you all. But we did everything. We did everything from graphic design. I had kids making flyers, posters, whatever, that went out in the community. I had kids that had contacts, because here's the thing. This is what you have to do. You have to reach out to other people. It is not an isolated thing in your classroom. You have to use the community. You have to use architects. I mean, when we're talking about this rooftop, we called architects. I didn't. They did. They called architects. They called people who are soil experts. They called, you know, people and asked them and said, you know, give us information. And so I had some student, and I can't even remember who it was, who had all of these downtown maps made, and we laid it out. And kids were like, okay, well, how can we revitalize downtown Winchester? And we had crosswalks. They asked us to do crosswalks, and we were going out, I don't know why in the world some kid would put an octopus on a crosswalk, but she did. And then I don't know, it has nothing to do with Winchester, Kentucky, but whatever. But it gave them a whole lot of ownership. And I mean, I had kids, they made models and like this all that stuff. The interesting thing is that, and this is really, I think it's kind of sad to a degree, is that I did not realize how much our downtown was not used. And like, there were spaces I've never even been, and I've lived in, which I'm not from there, but I've lived there for a long time. And the history, and you talk about social studies, I'm like, why did I not do this when I was teaching U.S. history? Like, have these people come and talk, you know, and share. There's so much that you could do with your downtown area. So our kids got really, really involved, and it was a humongous success. They had pop-up businesses. We had kids that were trying to design businesses to make money. But the whole point is, I didn't plan any of that out. Like, that was something that just, it happened, and then we ran with it. And like, you know, it was like one of those things where we gotta be flexible and go. Now, here's the thing. I will say this. I'm in a much more flexible position than a lot of people are. And I understand that because, you know, when I was teaching U.S. history, we did have EOCs, and you are like just by the calendar, and you know, and you're sweating and stressing, and like, how are we going to get all this in? You know, it takes time, but you got to play around with it a little bit. You know what I mean? To the point where you feel comfortable. There are people that are not like me, and it will never be like me in terms of the way I do things. And they're more on the other end of the spectrum, and that's okay. But I think for kids, a lot of times you got to give them these opportunities.
Can I interrupt? What was when the founders or whatever downtown came?
Yeah.
How did you turn that into like what the standards were, not really standards, but what were the skills you wanted them to learn? What was the driving question? Like, when do you do that part after someone comes to you? Or do the kids create the driving question? Because you wanted them to, I guess, to learn some history. They obviously learned some math. They learned.
That is a great. How
do you get to the learning part?
Right. And I think, and this is really important. This is something to really delve into and think about and contemplate. Is a lot of times I don't come at it from like I'm teaching this specific content, so we're going to think of a project to go with it. A lot of times the project develops or the interest comes out, and then I pull content to, to say, hey, look, this is legitimate. It's not fluff. We're not making volcanoes to make volcanoes or whatever. And because I have such a diverse group, you know what I mean, and like
you have a lot of freedom with content.
I do. I do. And I also, and here's the other thing, and I think this is what has been key, is that I am in a situation where I work with two assistant principals very closely. They give me a lot of flexibility. And so when I was put into this role, the principal's like, listen, I trust you. I trust you. And I know that some people could be like, oh, well, you're just going to sit in a room all, you know what I mean? Like, they play with Connects or Dominoes or whatever. But I think that having flexibility and having trust from administration and the ability to try things and to fail has been key. So back to what you were saying about the learning part and the content part. From this situation, it was all the driving question, it really was, how can we revitalize our downtown area, certain strip, Main Street, how can we get people to come in? And it was just a one Saturday thing. We did it over the Friday, Saturday. How can we encourage people to come in? So in that was some historical stuff, a lot of speaking. So 21st century, we had a lot of like kids using technology that, taking pictures and doing social media and like selling, pitching ideas, and a lot of marketing, a lot of business, that all kind of came into play. So, yeah, sometimes, like a second example, okay, of a project, it was just a one kid project, is that hey, this student barely got to make it, he just needs like 5% of help, he felt help a long time ago. And so I'm like thinking, gosh, what can we do? So he was really interested in hands. It's like one day he's like, I'm trying to say, you ever just sat on your hand? Figured out how your hand, and I'm like, not really, no, I don't need to put my hand like that. But for some reason, he had some bizarre interest in hands. And it was probably the only thing he was interested in, quite frankly. I mean, he just did not be here. So I'm like, okay. So in that case, I went straight to health. I'm like, what can we do? What content can I pull for this kid who was interested in anatomy, in how the hand works? And so I think this is what Melissa saw him that day that she came. But it started out, it was really kind of crazy because we did science buddies. You all probably have seen that before. It's like a website. It's kind of, they've got some really cool stuff on there. So I said, get on and just start looking. You know what I mean? See what you can find about hands and making hands and that kind of stuff. And so he did, and he was like, he built this. He asked me to go get him some stuff. It melted in my car last night, but he was like playing around with it. And he's like, this and that and that. He talked to anybody who came into the room about his hand. Then he was like, oh, you know what? I think, he was like, I saw where they were like 3D printing, and like they were using it in people's bodies. And I'm like, yeah, So I hooked him up with some articles about how they were doing skulls, 3D printed parts of the skull, people who had brain injuries, and like how they were doing like pains. They just made a motorcycle. I think I saw that in the paper, Lexington Herald, the whole thing. They did a 3D printed motorcycle. Okay. But this kid got really interested, and interested in content, really, and truly, anatomy and that kind of thing. And so in that case, we went that direction. So I think you have to be flexible. And I try really hard to read and to gauge where people are, to meet kids where they are with their interests and their passions, and then to kind of take them a little bit further with content and direction in certain areas. The thing with the process, though, is you have to have some kind of parameters, okay? Because it needs to be legit. And, you know, if people are coming in and they're asking me, okay, well, okay, yeah, you're doing all these great projects, awesome, that's great, but where, you know, like, so you do have to pull together some content and some standards. In my case, what I do is I do true blended learning, I think. I have Apex, we use Apex at our school for credit recovery. Like I told the morning session earlier, we have in our district, unfortunately, used Apex in the wrong format because we use it for credit recovery only. And so the kids who don't want to be at school, who are usually behind, at least one grade level, if not more, get pulled into a room, and we were there all day from like 8:30 to 3:30, and you've got a computer in front of you, and you are to sit and you are to do online learning. Okay? Now, some schools do it differently. Some people do 2 hours a day. Some people do 3 hours a day. We, at our school, had been doing straight periods, okay? I don't know how many of you all are familiar with ATEX. I'm sure you guys.
As a parent, I'm going to just say, and this knows my son, I can say this probably. I has thrived in credit recovery. I mean, they say that he knocks it out. Now, here is not easy. I don't know anything about it, but it's because someone's not standing over him and hovering. You know, he works at his own pace. He has his own goals. He gets finished. He moves on. You know, I wish that's how you finish high school.
Okay.
You know?
Yes. So that is basically, that is what we have done at GRC. Most kids do not do well 8 to 3 on a computer all day. A lot of kids need more hands-on, and they need more movement, and they need, you know, something. I have 3 this year that have been Apex and Apex only from home. They come to me, they're like, so you're talking about flexible, they are allowed to check in with me at any point in the day. I communicate with them, you know, over messaging and that kind of thing, and check their progress, and they are hugely successful in Apex, and they do it all on their own. The majority of my kids are not, though. They need doing stuff. So what we have been able to do is pull some Apex, pull that content, and then add in, you know, and sometimes it is, okay, you're going to do so much of this and get that content first, and then develop something. Sometimes it's taking the passion and the interest and then pulling that content to like fit it in there. You know, but it is a blended kind of environment. That's for the majority of my kids. Again, we're in another weird situation because we have a standalone, which I don't necessarily think is the correct way to do PBL. We have a standalone class called PBL, the PBL experience. Now, the benefit of this is that I get awesome, you know, to work with a lot of different kids at different levels across disciplines, and that's where, you know, how I ended up pulling Jada in, and she's fit for that. I mean, it's an excellent class, and it's an elective. So you do have, as you all got, you know, with electives, you have a lot of freedom. And what's happened is that kids are so interested in it that, like, they're having to open more and more and more PBL electives because kids want to be in it and they can't, you know, we can't get enough people doing it. So that, I don't know if that kind of gives you all an idea. But there's always a process, okay, that you go through, and it always starts with developing a climate, getting the correct culture, getting people together, and then taking the driving question or a challenge, and then putting it on students or putting it on folks to kind of figure out how you want to do it. So it is, what is it, 1:30, 45? Do we need to take a break or are we okay? When is our scheduled break? When is our scheduled break?
Scheduled is 2.
At 2? Okay.
But
I say, I think we need to move around a little bit. Get a stretch.
Wanna play a game?
So, yes!
Play penguins and reindeer?
Yes, I don't know what you have.
I gotta go out in the lobby though.
Okay, let's make a circle. I'm all about lunch energizer. Okay. I don't think anybody else knows how to move around. You can stand in a circle. It's fun, it's great. We're doing it. And then, all right, let's do it, Jada.
So Peterson,
what?
I'm slow recently.
I
get I know.
Out of my comfort zone enough.
Right up your alley, though. That's it, it's chaos.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to?
Oh,
Yeah, come to
our Trying to
for
figure out.
2 hours.
Just for a day.
You talk about chaos.
Yeah, get more than your,
Horizon
more than
sales
your
are just-
part.
Come on.
Oh, well,
Johnny.
we probably have.
See.
Come on. Yeah, but all of ours are. Y'all might have one or two. We could all.
we have.
All of ours. She is.
Maybe we make it for next.
I guess so. I told her that's gonna be the cleanest bunny I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
He's been cleaning himself the whole time. Surprised
I
he's
said,
got
maybe
fur.
we make it for next.
Surprised he's still got fur.
My gosh.
How you doing?
Good, what about you?
Good. How's Lance?
Doing great. You know she's got a baby now.
No, it
Oh, he's old too. Well, not old, but
He's old.
Year and a half.
She ain't that old.
I don't know.
I'll show you a picture she just sent me this morning. 22. She's in Florida with him and her husband, so.
Did she get married?
Mhm. There he is. Hello. Reindeer or penguin? He is
Oh,
something
I
else.
was the restroom user. I'm not much of a game. I don't have the energy that Robin has, God bless her.
She is.
She has more energy than I do.
There he is.
Got any big plans this summer for Paris?
Right.
Traveling?
I always go back home for.
Oh, you all missed the reindeer penguin.
Colorado?
You teach Lexi? Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Whereabouts?
Hi, Courtney. Oh, this is still recording.
Denver Springs and then.
I've only,
Okay, so here's the deal.
I want to be right. Mix them up this time. Yeah.
I've only driven through a couple of times. We came from, I guess, Utah.
Or just do like 1, 2, 3, 4, let's do number a while.
The far eastern part of Colorado is quite a bit different.
Yeah. Then where I grew up, in Plains, you see the mountains.
You do you, and I want
Where I
you
was, I have my kids,
The rain, and my kid smashed it with his foot last night. I'm like, oh, buddy.
I was thinking when you were talking about this, I wonder if he was, who knows what he was thinking, but, like a prosthesis or something like that, where, where you have to grip something, you have to grip, pull up,
Yes.
something.
So that was, okay, on this, Science Buddy, on that website, that, it basically gave the lesson. And that's what he had to grip the golf ball with that. And it actually worked, like he could
Really?
use it, yeah, and he could pull the strings
Totally into
and like, but he was, you're right, like, he was like interested in like the, almost like the engineering side of your hand and breath.
That's what I was picturing as you were talking about. Because he was probably with a lot of money.
Yeah, I know, you're exactly right.
Okay, I didn't pay any attention in school, but I love money.
I do not have patience. And I'm in school.
We do not have the elementary people on our first week.
We should do,
Good elementary. You could do that with your kids. And they don't have to get too crazy like they say in that one track.
You know what, I was thinking about, like, you're talking about the, vets and stuff like that. Here's the other thing that we totally gonna do, like, we're gonna have paper.
Please, just,
And so we're gonna open it up.
I don't know anything about their pay and everything.
Or, I don't really.
Yeah, and I think,
Oh, celebrated, like drawing. Yeah. And, cause another thing is, like, the other thing that she was, kids were in the, group, she had, there was a week, like, in the class, and all, it was just like, can't do it ever. Like, and they have no flexibility, like, so, we're thinking, like, how could we, yeah.
so she had a meet and greet.
Play around, which is what they really want to do, try, so we're gonna see how that works.
So when you do that, like.
Well, we're gonna put this points. We're just like, this is all brainstorming, and trying to hash out. Our library is, Amazon, she comes in early, has less, so she was like, I gotta use the library space. She talked about, like, I mean, literally shutting down the library. It's used for like housing.
The little, I know the little.
Engineering.
He has games on and not that. He had him on when he came off. He always says that to me. Our first game, he always tells me. Some of it's and he always plays. Blue from the March around, he doesn't play. And he, but then there's people on the division too that we don't play.
Everybody, we don't need.
St. Charles is very well out. One with the stage on the
I've never had somebody in my entire life on the phone. Have I been involved in and I think.
I think Barstone's living with us.
Oh, yeah, Sam Emerson.
George Rogers Park.
Like saw multiple times.
Oh, always tell them.
I was gonna ask you specific.
Hey, Monica Case. Did you see this? Isn't this what Jacob Maddie?
Is Rocky going with you?
That lady that we did yeah. In the name room, it's on the day, and it's like, pretty accurate.
My brother and my mom. Okay. Oh yeah, I just called them because I told them to get me some peroxide for my leg. Down out too, and I burned myself with my hair curler, and it was bad. It was really bad. It's like a bubble. It's like it filled with liquid, and then it busted. So I'm trying to treat it. Got some peroxide and maybe some like nail spray. I just don't want it to get infected.
It's the craziest. So I said, I don't need to buy me the construction paper and that kind of stuff. I said, I can get that stuff. I need to buy me furniture. Because we're in long ones. And they write about my student that you're like, yeah. But I need my right.
You'll use
I need to buy me furniture. I need
That's your crazy lunch, guys. Where are you at?
We all are talking about money. She's like other men. So I know you're walking by and the most flexibility is I have, all this stuff. There was a whole entire year and a half that I just, like, I would have my ideas, I'm like, all right, do the five. And I was yeah, a lot of stuff. So that's because, like, there's so many consumables involved with hands-on stuff.
We did make sure her training this morning, and the district seems like they're
Yeah.
gonna do. You know, she said they list the big ticket items. I've been saving money to do a lot of my library because it's very structured. But I've got to see it. Really? So they're stuck.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to get rid of those. So they're finally gonna get it. So they're gonna get rid of that. So I told her, I said, I need to buy furniture because I can't spend my money that I have from book fairs on permanent stuff. I can spend on furniture and computers and things like that. I didn't know what she said. We
Did she give me that?
The Kentucky Goes Lady.
I say
Take her off.
Yes, where were they? Is it James?
We just borrowed. Emails from them.
They had a big thing in
That's what I was like, it was so awesome. It's like everybody else, it was like walking, and it was just really, really awesome.
How did you get it? When did you figure out that you were allowed to reduce?
Here's a question for you.
Before you did.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So, let's flip to the 5 over here. I guess I can hold on to it. Okay, so there's a question that popped up about, is there a particular guru or author that's a big deal with PBL, like to order a book, but there's too many out there for me to make an informed choice. Okay, so here are some ideas. These are kind of like, I try to narrow it down to my top 5. I personally think that High Tech High, anything that High Tech High does, they do have books, but they're not books in terms of, here's how you do a process, or follow this. They are books that their kids have made of the projects they've done.
Okay.
But High Tech High is, I mean, they are rocking awesome. And I can't remember exactly the grade levels. I know they do have elementary. So it would go across age levels and would help people. Buck Institute, that's kind of like
You must have touched the board.
The Buck Institute is probably the leader in PBL.
I've been out there.
And that is, they put tons of stuff. If you just, do some simple searches and stuff like that, they have got lots, it almost is like you said, is overwhelming. It can be overwhelming because they have so much information, but they are the leaders in the PBL movement and giving teachers resources and connecting people. I use Edutopia a lot, and I do that just with Twitter. And I'm on Twitter. Embarrassment, but it's Girly Girl Wonder. I need to change it. I don't know why my handle is Girly Girl Wonder because I'm not Girly Girl at all. But I use Edutopia a lot, and then, believe it or not, like I just use social media. Like Twitter has been my husband for the longest time. Just says, God, if you're not using Twitter right, that's what he always say. You're just taking pictures of her kids and stuff like that. You gotta use it in a professional way. So I really have started to connect with people in the chats that are on there. And certain content areas, definitely, like library media specialists have great groups that get on there and like talk about how can we turn our library into a makerspace, and content areas, how can you do U.S. history, how can you fit the content area and, content and do project-based learning. So this is a great example too. This make do, and I think that you have to actually have an account for this, but it's also pretty cool, especially, I don't think anybody's had any, has used it or played around with it at all, especially for little ones. We used it in high school, but we, at some point, I don't even know what it was, I had probably 8,000 cardboard boxes, I'm guessing. I mean, it was a lot. I had a lot of cardboard in my room because I just hoarded it. The kids kept making fun of me and calling me orders, whatever. But I'm like, we could reuse it. We could do something with that. And sure enough, this website, this Make Do, I mean, you can get on it and you can make anything out of cardboard. Like castles and like things as silly as like, tiny little things to like just huge engineering feats. and they give you the plans to do it and that kind of thing. So it's a fun, if you've got like an enrichment you need to do, or if you've got STEM. I don't think they hear does STEM at the elementary school level. That's another great website that you can use. The other, I'm going to throw a plug. I put some books out here. These are mainly, these are kind of like specific with a lot of making things. But another, when I really started thinking about this and you know, started thinking about, I'm going to have kids 100% creative stuff in my room, is I got the Maker Space handbook. Have you guys seen this or heard of this? Okay. It's an yeah, dig in there. It's an online format, and it's literally a handbook. It's a Makerspace handbook. I really suggest, even if you're in a traditional classroom, which a lot of you are, it's worth taking a look, and it gives you step by step by step. You should purchase this. You can, you know, here are some suggestions for this. And like I said, I think I said this to you guys earlier. At first, I was so nervous about, like, what if a PBL expert is going to come in and tell me I'm doing it wrong, or, you know, what if I don't do the process right, or this or that. And I finally just got over it, and I'm like, all right, we're going to start making stuff cardboard, and we're going to figure out how we can connect that, you know, and you just start trying and doing and get in there and playing around, literally playing with stuff, and then it kind of like falls in place. Because I have no budget, like I just said, I have zero budget. Right? Maker handbook, the Maker handbook. Yeah. And there's a book that is like the Maker book that I must have left that one at school. But I have no budget. I have no money. And so and a lot of times people use that as an excuse to say, you know, well, we can't do anything because we don't have any money. We don't have money to buy the materials to do the things that the kids want to do. I just say, that's an excuse, and you figure out a way. Sometimes you got to steal it. Sometimes you got to raid things and get things just to make it happen. So any other questions so far with where we are right now? By stealing it, I mean I don't literally go to steal, but I did have a kid bring me 100 and some pallets. Like, she was like, hey, Ms. Grimes, my boyfriend and I were driving in Lexington, and we saw that they had a bunch of pallets set out there, so we just brought them all to you to drop them off. And I get in, and there's like 100 pallets, like, everywhere. And I'm like, oh, man, this is and then they tell me what our chicken coop, because we decided we were going to hatch chickens, and we're like, well, what happens when chickens grow up? They need a place to hatch. Okay, we got to build a chicken coop. Get back there and start building a chicken coop. So, if we don't have any other questions, this is perfect timing for everybody to sit down. And you're going to follow Jada out into the hallway, and she's going to tell you what you're going to do. I'll let you take over.
How many groups do you work?
So as long as people are in group 4.
So how many people do I need to count? Okay, there's 4.
This would be good.
Yeah, we already had the
You're fine.
Is this the book?
I wish I had it. Oh my gosh.
Okay. I'm not going to be there. We're going to do like a real live, like, you know, so you guys are going to get fried, and then thing.
Oh, are you? Mm-hmm. Oh.
So you guys go there and actually
Yeah. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to form groups of 4. Yes. And we're going to 4 groups. And that up on the board is how I want your chairs. Get 2 or get 4 chairs together in a pod somewhere in this room.
Yeah,
sure. Yep, that's it. The Maker's Manual. So this is the one I use. It's a playbook, but it's from the same make company. Every library, I think, should have this.
I guess like the translation, like
Is this binding?
pretty serious full contract.
This one's 2013, so this one's, so I guess that's what it is.
You're an instigator, aren't you?
You can open those. I love lights.
What's your first name? Are you Nancy?
Especially in the afternoons. Okay, so you guys should be in groups of 4. We might have some odd groups. And what you've got in front of you, or what you're going to be getting, is a contract, okay, in your group. So, before I give you the challenge of what you're going to do, I want you to take a minute and look at this contract. And this is what you guys are going to use for the next 50 minutes as you are working together, okay? If you've not introduced yourself, if you don't know each other, I want you to take a minute or 2 to do that and just kind of share who you are and where you're coming from. And then you are going to put your names, your team members' names on here. Everybody needs everybody's first and last name on their sheet. You will each individually fill one out. So not one for the group, but one for every single person. And then you're going to see just some basic agreements. These are really broad agreements. With the challenge that you're getting ready to do, you are going to have to work together to come up with a pitch and a visual, all right, that you're going to present. And yes, there will be a grade on it. You will be rewarded if you are top of the class. Everybody in your group has to participate in this activity, okay? So you can't have one person sitting out saying, okay, I'm just going to hang out on Facebook for a few minutes and you all go ahead and do all this work here. Everybody has to participate. So once you have looked over the agreements and you've read this together as a group, you agree that you're going to be respectful and listen to other people's ideas. You're going to work together as best you can. Somebody needs to kind of step up and be the timekeeper, which I fail to do often. Ask for help if you need help. Ask for clarification if you need clarification. And then if there's anything you want to add to this contract, feel free to do this. Okay. As you're going through and you're looking and you're agreeing to all these things, you'll see team member signatures. Once every team member has agreed, go ahead and get signatures from everyone. O-S-E-O. As you're passing these around, you're going to sign in and looking over stuff. It would be a great time to talk about skills. If anybody has any specific skills that you're bringing to the table, I know you don't know exactly what the challenge is yet. If there's anything you want to share.
I'm working. All right, so we're going over everything.
The voice is breaking.
It's like they had their cage and they're going to speak like that. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm just going to lay it out here. If you have a problem in your group, you need to take care of that amongst yourselves. Okay, if somebody is sitting here and you're on Facebook the whole time, or you're Instagramming the whole time, or you just get up and you decide you need to go walk around for like 40 minutes, then folks in the group, you need to address that in your group. If it is so bad that I need to step in and kind of have a heart-to-heart with the group, then that's, you know what I mean, that is not good. But I will do that.
If we need mediation.
If I need it, Jada is willing to mediate as well. We will, okay, so you've got your contracts now. I want you to hold on to those contracts. Here is the deal. Okay, it is you have got. I'm going to give you till 2:45. Yeah, I'm going to give you till 2:45. You've got till 2:45. That's a long time. Okay, to do this challenge. And your challenge is this. And I'm going to do it verbally, so I can clarify once I say it, if you're not quite sure. That one thing I told you, like driving questions and challenges, a lot of times they go on passion and what students are passionate about or what a teacher is passionate about. Okay, and I'm a huge believer that you bring passion to the classroom. Okay, and if you don't have any passion, well then I feel bad for you because you should be passionate about something, right? And kids really want to connect to that, and they develop a relationship with you sometimes based on the passions you have. Okay, so something that I have really been tossing around in my head and thinking a lot about is this concept of sustainable. Okay, and it started bizarrely enough. I went to this like yoga thing, and the yoga teacher was talking about how can you sustain yourself? How can you, for the rest of your life, how can you build and sustain and think about yourself in terms of sustaining yourself through foods that you eat, or through exercise, through mental, kind of exercises that you do. So I've been thinking sustainable. What is that? And you see it everywhere you go. Like, this is a business practice, a sustainable business practice. How do we make our schools sustainable? How do we sustain teachers so that they don't burn out or end up apathetic, right? So, with that in mind, the concept, the idea, thinking about sustainable, what you're going to do is you are going to work together in your team, and you are going to come up with a sustainable best practice that you're going to implement in Nelson County. Okay. So you're going to come up with a sustainable best practice that you could implement in Nelson County. The winner of this challenge, this is just like a little mini challenge here, okay? This is like a huge year-long project or anything. But the winner is going to be the group that their sustainable practice will have the most impact on the local community. I mean, really have potential to impact and affect people in Nelson County. Okay. So while you're like falling down. While you're sitting here in your groups, what you should be doing, and see, I'm trying to do this kind of quickly because if I were in a classroom, I would probably take a little bit longer to go through the process with kids. But what you should be doing is you should be thinking in your head, like, what is she talking about? What is sustainable? What does sustainable mean? What is sustainability? She's talking about like recycling. She's talking about like, green stuff, paper. What is sustainable? I'm not sure what sustainable means. So you're kind of thinking, kind of developing an idea of what sustainable is. You can use. Are we allowed to use our phones, Ms. Krabs? Are we allowed to use computers? Sure. Use devices that you have. Does anybody in the group have any kind of like feelings about sustainability or any kind of experience? Is she talking about doing it at school? Should we do it in our school district? Is she talking about doing it in Nelson County community? So you're thinking about all these things, okay? And then you're going to work together come up with a pitch, and when I say pitch, I mean sell me the idea, okay? Tell me why your idea would be the best, okay? Kind of like a proposal, but not like a proposal, because a proposal is more like written out in detail. This is like, give me a quick 2-minute why yours is the best. And you also need a visual, okay? So you can do that. Don't worry, I'm going to exceed your time because I'm talking long. You can do that one of 2 ways, okay? The first way you can do it is old school arts and crafts, okay? So if you want to make a poster, there are some materials over here you're more than welcome to use, and you can use them however you want to use them as a poster. Or if you would like to do an online visual, Melissa's going to show you how you can do it digitally, okay?
So it would just be whatever platform that you wanted to use. But right here on this slide, there's a link to where you would link your presentation format, whatever that is, so that when you present it to everyone after a while, we'll be able to just project it right up there on the screen without having to unhook and rehook computers. So if you go digital, just go to this slide, click here, and add your link there so we can access it later.
In your group of 4 people, you're going to what is a sustainable best practice that we can implement. Have you ever heard of like think global, act global? That's what I want you to do. Think global, act global here in Nelson County. Any questions before we get started? If you need help, I'll be floating around and I can kind of clarify stuff to make sure everybody understands what's going on. But you've got, let's keep it at 2:45. I always go over that. Let's keep it at 2:45. Okay?
What are some of the things you guys are popping in your head? Like if we were just doing a little brainstorm? What popped in your head?
Oh, I was thinking county. Nothing popped in.
Oh, okay. Nothing popped in yet. So do we want to, and maybe just thinking of what was the first thing that popped in your mind?
Well, all the schools, like we're doing the gardening over there, maybe some kind of school-wide gardening project.
I was thinking like Mr. Hayes is starting Peter and me, so I was thinking pretty sure we saw it in my mind.
Oh, I wish. I only hope my daughter.
We as teachers?
She's only 5 years old.
I guess
That's
it could be,
sustainable?
but it could be, yeah. Because I guess I got stuck on that part, which I was talking about as teachers, being sustainable as teachers, but I guess if we want to reach the community, so I would have to.
And Leader in Me is like all about bringing in the community and making it a whole. So,
What were your thoughts?
I honestly am blank right now. I'm just not any ideas.
When you say school-wide, you mean community-wide, district-wide?
District-wide gardening project. Would be one big local one, and all the schools take time going out and working on it, or they'd be in the local garden at school, and then they share products.
Well, this actually triggers something that happened yesterday. I don't think we wanted to be at someone's job.
Right. Right. I'm eavesdropping.
The big kids might
Yes. Yeah. At Nelson County, there was like the National Honor Society was yeah, how it got anywhere, I don't know.
So,
The parents were
They were bringing in stuff that could be recycled, would drop it off through the card loop to whoever was doing bus duty, so that we were able to gather more recycled.
Oh, so yeah, they really had to.
Yes, yes.
That's what we inherited. Yeah, it was like an 8th grade thing, and they, of course, they take the kids to recycle, and then they get the money for their 8th grade trip or whatever. But the parents would bring it in, and we have different people volunteer to go drop it off. So they got the money for it. Right, back in the school, yeah, for things they need.
What's a big deal?
You're out, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting back to your meeting.
Valley
sustainable connection. Here we go. Oh, you know, we all get a ton of Boy Scouts. Yeah, just like get outside.
We're trying to
You know, and people come in and ask me, like, this place, but, you know, like I know when I worked at Steve Foster's, the drama when I was in high school.
I think that'd be cool.
And
then you
we,
get
like, we would take it was the trolley, not the trolley van, it was the tractor. I don't know what it was called. Do you know what I'm talking about, where the tractor would drive you to the distilleries in different places?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I don't remember what it's called, but anyway, we, like,
The trolley. I think it'd be a trolley.
it's a trolley now. I don't know what it was. But anyway, like you would, that was part of our job because we worked at the Steve Foster, so there were a lot of tourists that came there. So if they had questions, we answered that. But I think for our kids, we look for all these field trips, these great field trips. And our kids don't even know about our own town. I mean, we go to the science center, we go here, but they don't even know about our town.
We used to do that a lot with our fourth grade, because they do Kentucky history, but we would do
Like a walking tour. Yeah, but see, like they don't. I mean, you know, our kids.
Yeah, we don't even promote our own.
We don't. No, we go to the science center. We look for these great, you know, opportunities. And our own kids here don't even know what goes on here. I mean, we were looking at.
I think that'd be cool
For the
if, like,
Bella
if we did like divide it up like to everyone, but then like each school was assigned a certain, like this year Thomas Nelson gets downtown, and we have to work with all the businesses downtown, and then like OKH get all the businesses in New Haven, and so like that they can help the businesses promote and do like part of their work.
Like certain grades, yeah, certain grades, you know, went here, so that you know if a kid moves from Texas Creek to Foster Heights, they'd still be on the same page. You know, oh well, last year you did this no matter what school you're at.
Yeah. We tried to do that.
Well, we do for content. We do content, but I mean for that, it's kind of, you know, like when you're in this grade.
Like the second Saturday thing, and it came out like big locations, like people were really interested in it, and we could always, like they have a Twitter or something. Like this year it's at this month at, you know, the farmers market in Barson, this next month at the yeah. Or like even and like get it out too, like make them go out to New Haven and Bloomfield and stuff, so that they feel like they really, really are part of it.
I'm eavesdropping.
I think bringing all of those communities together is a good idea, because,
Excuse me.
Oh, think you're gonna be able to actually read that?
No, because it needs to mirror. It's backwards.
Oh.
Or it does mirror, so therefore it's backwards.
I said 5 minutes.
There's gotta be some incentive,
Save the big 2 more copy and paste it. I mean,
cut and paste it for the student, bring them in for the parent to make the space for them to have it.
I just said students recycling cans.
Or whatever,
Right.
with the bag in it and drop it.
Right.
And then there's all kinds of, but I put images of Google and then there's all kinds of
The
images.
kids could come up with a way.
If you just do, I don't know how familiar you are, if you just do insert image, you can Google search
It
for
won't
it.
let me go out onto the.
Go out here, go to Google.
I can.
Yeah,
How the bag, what type of bag they would use.
I can show you a really quick trick. It's pretty cool.
I can think about how many cans could go in the bag, how often could you bring the bag? Then you need a place at the school where they're going to be dropped off.
Right.
And then you can charge to offer to take them. Yeah.
And if you find one you want, you can just grab it,
Right.
and come up here, and then drop it on the side.
Right. One grade level up. This one is first grade, it's her.
Right.
Yeah. Who's gonna take the cans. Yeah.
So.
Yes, yeah. You think they don't have to? I mean, this was a small school, you know. They made a lot of money. Oh, yeah. Save them all. But if we started doing it in every school enough and doing right, oh, yeah. I mean, they could decide where, how they want to spend it. That's what I was thinking. And it could maybe even be for some kind of a garden space or something at your school, which goes along with your growing vegetables, like what she did with the rooftop. Yes, growing vegetables, growing. Right. Oh yeah, we talked about that on the break, that we didn't really take advantage of that. You can use that money.
But it's culture.
Okay. Are you savvy with this technology stuff? Me either. I'm terrible at it.
Do you all can do paper, poster, or electronic, whichever you want.
We can't draw either.
Uh,
I can't use a computer and we can't draw, so we're just kind of out of luck.
So if you want to do a Google presentation, if you just go to your drive and do create new. So this is Johnny's drive. And just title it whatever you want, and it's ready to go. Okay. And then here you would have to share.
I have no business savvy.
Let's name it, whatever you all want to name it.
Buy local, is that what you want to name? Okay.
And then get shareable links. Anyone else in county can view, so you're just gonna, you'll hit Control C, that's gonna copy that. And then come back over to the document, is that it? So if you open that.
I'm trying to think of a flow chart, but somehow maybe
You want to put the link to your presentation right there. So now you're just going to click in that box, and then hit Control V, and it'll paste it in. Letter V. Yay! Okay. If you hit enter at the end, it'll turn into a usable link. Yep.
if you have that, you need to get more creating some community pride in those products and services. Create a belief in support for local businesses, which within that businesses with a sense of commitment to the community in return. I don't know, just bouncing ideas. Business and I have no business background whatsoever.
Okay, now then I go back to
Yep, so that's, and then you can be done with that. And you can go out and Google search images and copy and paste them in there, or you can add your own stuff.
Socket was first from the slide here. So then, sure that
I love how you look at it. Like,
Little blurb about what the plan is.
So we need something for each grade level to go through.
I think we just did one.
Alright, so I've just got personalized community spotlight. Do we want to put like a little blurb under here?
did she share it with you?
Yeah. Focus
You're
on,
on. Oh, I thought you were on Star.
focus on one business. A month or what? That seems like too little.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Let's say like maybe bi-weekly, probably not weekly. Business or
And grow. Focus on business. Focus on a business each month. Decorate all in one.
Because I got a good idea.
should we do business or historic?
Are you not sure if that shares so anyone with like can view?
I've never read it. Oh, I know. Well, maybe we can put that in the same. Like, I think there would be more. The older kids would benefit more from that, you know, as far as the history of it. Yes. The Cam's March.
Another word besides business, focus on a, because like my particular comes not necessarily a business,
It's
it's
historical.
something that like encompasses all of that. So if we did a business too, but
Or attraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all were there, yeah.
Have you ever been on David Mudd's community field trip? That's pretty cool because they talk to local leaders, they go to the courthouse, but they do all of that in one day.
Yeah, we're trying to do from K to 12. Like,
That's so cool.
And then community, like, not just.
Right. Because I know when they do it, they send one bus to like the Bloomfield area and one bus to the New Haven area, so they don't get the whole thing either. They just get chunks. That's awesome.
What could be another business we want to follow? Or do we want to say what we're doing?
Yeah, just the beginning.
How do we express this whole reading from the outside in? Where we want the habits, the leader to be habits, for them to internalize caring. And that's really what we're doing. We're taking care of outside, and we want them to take care of inside, including themselves and their habits and their outlook and their pride. And I don't know at your school if you have difficulty with school behavior, with child behavior or culture. So this is something.
Cycle thing. I was thinking of like doing the opposite, like doing like the outside on the inside, like something. I was thinking of like a poster kind of thing, or we can put it on here, but everything from the outside is on the inside, and it goes out. And then the
Wasn't there a
outside
going
is
green
school
symbol
floor.
already? Like the earth with a little recycle marks or something?
There's something like that on there.
So you're talking about like having a barrier, forest, or something inside.
Yes,
room,
like
inside a
inside,
classroom.
and then yes.
And then maybe a thought bubble, maybe kids sitting in a classroom and all this stuff in the classroom, and then maybe having them have these thoughts. So, I like that, what they were, the
Kids
foliage,
in
that's the word I'm looking
desks.
for. All the foliage being inside.
Kids in desks in a forest.
Isn't that cool? Okay, so now we just need to find a basic picture. Do you want me to start a Google Doc so we can all just start playing on it?
Will you make sure to share it as anybody with a link can view, so when you paste it on, so it's ready to.
Except I'm going to share it with them.
Right,
So,
to edit.
Okay, so Lorraine dot Harris. Roby Morgan. Roby.
So this is the title.
So, greening.
Look at the Google images and they're going green.
Here we go.
So let's go green together.
Outreach into the community and moving to designate the spot where we're going to collect. And that's why it's important. Parents build the case.
Sorry.
If it's countywide, we could have our tech students.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Each needs to have a spot where they're going to get turned in. They can turn them in any time of the day. After work.
No, it is.
Not easily accessible.
You'd have to have it logged in just a small place to drop it in.
Right. Yeah.
Because,
That
I've dropped off at
shoot.
recycling centers where someone is standing there and grabs it.
Yeah.
Like just a tiny shoot.
You can share that with him so that he can edit it as well.
You want me to share this with you?
You bet.
And then you'll type his email address in there.
Still
Carl.Shannon.
Carl.Shannon, yes, ma'am.
There you are.
So I just go
And then hit send.
Send.
How if you go to your drive?
You should pop that.
Go to drive.
Now, what I think I'll do
Or,
is put in.
and then go shared with me.
Here, I'm going to go to.
Well, I guess I was just thinking we could brainstorm our clips and stuff and then we can open on.
So if you want to add another slide, you can either plus sign or you can do Control M and it'll add another one right in.
I'll try the one. This is how you do it. Float over. It'll pop up.
The impact on the community.
How it brings money into the community.
Awareness of each grade level based on appropriate lesson. Appropriate. Kindergarten color picture and identify the place. Fourth grade visit the museum and take a tour. Eighth grade will attend the King Poppy story. The mansion and the people. Yeah, where'd that come from? And the history of the mansion. Oh, and the. What's the name of the family there? No.
She was just cousin. Shoot, if you had just asked me.
Google it.
Why can't I find a picture of that? Trying to kill me.
Well, there's a quarter.
I know,
It's
it's your quarter
on there.
behind
She's
you.
got it on there, but. Okay, so
Just Google search it outside of the images.
I went to my background.
You can do that.
At least when you make it, oh, you did the background thing.
Yeah.
So
Make the letters blue and or make it blue and then transparent a little bit, like just the background of it.
Make the letters blue. I can do that. And make what transparent?
Make the box blue instead of the letters, and then make that transparent.
So go for the dumping thing, make it blue,
Is where the bluegrass stays.
and then go back up there again to the dumping thing, and go custom. And then right here is what makes it transparent, so you drag it over your arrows down. It'll make it clearer.
And then you just make your letters really bold, like black or something.
Okay, so do right click on it and save. No, save image as. And then just do save. And now go back to your slide. Do background.
Background name is too transparent.
Choose and sign. Upload.
Oh, it's pure love.
So what's another place that makes me thinking about you?
Oh, that's pretty. All right, so you want another business?
Yeah, actually doing
I'm
some
trying to
stuff.
look at something. Forest.
How much time do we have left? We only have 10
Everybody is working
minutes.
so hard. It's so cool. Everybody's working so hard.
Except you.
I know. But I'm getting lots of good ideas.
Got a lot of gardens, but don't have any in a classroom. That's what's going to
I've wanted to interject
Well,
a
we'll have
bunch.
to paste it in there. Let's just see what happens.
We're just going to put the image in there.
Search a forest in a classroom.
That's what I was going to.
Is it inside the room?
It's like a sign.
Oh, it's an outdoor classroom. Let's see if some graphic designer has already done something.
That's what I'm looking.
Oh, I actually made a rainforest in my classroom once. It looked kind of like that.
That would be nice.
That's really outside. Like we want something to look like. How could I quickly?
Control Shift.
Except if it were real. You see what I mean? So I was thinking about getting a picture of a bunch of kids sitting at desks raising their hands and then just start putting stuff like this. And could I find something and do it kind of do transparent?
Put the green above their hands. Is that what you mean? Like their idea is a bubble pop.
Yeah, the little pop bubbles. So like.
I want to Google search something.
Where's that one?
I'm doing this here and recording you.
Help us find this, Melissa. Who, me? What, am I talking too much?
No, not at all. I just thought you'd be much more active.
Let's see. Room enthusiasm. Let's try that.
Oh. I know, but that's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh.
Did you find the perfect one?
It's not really a classroom, but it's a building.
No.
Maybe that could be the proof of concept. What did you look up to get that? Oh, inside a building. Well, drag some of them into our thing. Could we have a row of desks down here with kids holding?
Here we go.
All right, drag it in here.
I don't have your presentation.
Oh, okay, I get to you. That's my sling blade, boys. I'm giving it to you. Right now.
You are being recorded.
Told you it'd be entertaining.
We get
Is that sling blade or is that
meetings all the
I wish
time.
Oh, put some desks up in there.
You need to be looking at
We put some
desk
like
PNG.
What'd you find?
What?
Kid index.
We actually had a chalkboard.
Kid
and, like,
index,
sitting out there.
because we need transparent background.
Put it up there.
Kid index
Figure out how to- I can
PNG.
get the snipping tool, but I don't know how to
What
get it
side am I
She
into
just
the.
dragged it, like.
Now you're the teacher, go show her.
And then take it to the tab.
I'm on slide
Click
4
on
right
it
now.
and hold it. No,
We're just all kind of throwing our
Just right click and hold, I think. Is that
This is
right?
one I'm
Let's
on.
see.
And we were gonna go like from
Oh,
this.
no, you click
Oh,
and
I got it,
drag,
drag,
click
okay.
and drag. And then take it to the tab and then let go. It'll come, mine did.
This is probably,
There we go.
what about this? Like school wear, forest
Through the
wear?
tab that the document is on, we're working on.
Pull up a desk and
You
be in
have
our
to click and
group.
drag.
He does really well.
We are, here, let's go ahead and put some words. Our pitch is screening from the outside in. Did you look at slide 4, you guys?
Going green from the outside.
Oh, that's cool.
How about that? Going green from the outside.
Okay, my slide's on blank.
Now we need a subtitle.
And that's why I wish, if you don't mind, if you'll write down your email address. Yeah, I was talking to you.
You got the old class, you got one thing just-
Here's our one here.
Slide 4. Don't change these.
Right click.
You know, this deal says if we can get you broken down like that, it's much as then.
Thank you.
Which I was good. I don't say.
It is, it was a little guy in there.
That's awesome. So, but. The relationships he has.
Oh, where's your little person in there?
Can I take your snip, Jimmy? I just did. Never mind, because I'm doing it. Oh, look how many she is all over my. Melissa and I are both. Okay, ladies, drag whatever you think you've got that you live.
What's the name, what's your pitch?
Going green. Going green.
Well, like this picture, it's easy
Going
going
green.
green.
Oh, I love that. Is there any way that we can make that picture wider without it stretching awful? Or could we make another hallway? Like duplicate? Let me do a background on this slide.
I'm gonna delete my classroom. You have that on there, and I'll put this easy going green.
Because you're talking about the process. Here, use this logo, Melissa. I like this logo. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm dragging it away. I don't like that slide color. Sugar booger. Put our little logo on that. You can move it wherever you want, but I'm just there. And I'm gonna use a word art. You guys know how to use word art? If you don't, I'll show you. It's awesome.
That would be like, I can get out of there.
Oh, I got white. Can I get the white out of there? Can you guys do
Transparent background.
What I'm seeing is not really what I see. So like boy, recycling, transparent background.
How do I get him off there?
Just click on him and hit the link.
Right there.
Are you over here? I'm sorry, I haven't checked in with you guys. How are we doing? Are we? Ah! I love that.
I can't get him out of there.
I've been getting a new one. Sorry, I'm deleting it.
Delete the guy for me.
Go and save it.
Got it. So this is your work over here, the greenhouse stuff? Phenomenal. That's what, when Jada and I pulled in, we were both like, we're gonna go over and check it all out. Yeah.
That was a big part of the project.
Yes. Yeah.
And
the kids actually do like.
Yeah, and you can make, like, I'm trying to get this in background. I'm trying to.
Got a lot of pictures of them working on it, and then we had raised beds, and everything started.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think they were.
Yeah.
So we didn't have compost piles. We took a couple thousand worms and.
That is awesome. I gotta totally go over and take pictures. We just started this year composting. My principal.
Strawberries.
Washington School was very anti-composting because he was like, it's just gonna smell. And I'm like, no, you do it right. So he doesn't even, well, that's what we got, we had about 500 regular worms that we got. And it's hilarious. Those kids will run in from the cafeteria.
Yeah, we're not using the tumbler, because we have a front and load.
Yeah.
We have two pets, one that's active and then one that's.
Right. So are you like a chicken? So in my backyard, I started out with tumblers, never used it. I always use it now because it's just so much.
Can I interrupt just a minute? I just wanted to let you know on the bottom of the agenda that was shared with you from your principal, or you received an email from me yesterday, there is a link to do an evaluation and a reflection of today's professional learning. Just complete that before you leave this afternoon, okay?
You can take it blue background away, Melissa.
I'll do like boy recycling PNG.
Oh, okay. Back up.
That's awesome. So you guys are done. We're going to recycle. How are you guys? Are you done? Are you done? You all are done. I'm still trying to get my pictures.
Look at my kid.
It's the worst repetition.
I mean, it's on, we gotta just click on the slide on. So click on this one. I'll show you.
Yeah,
it doesn't make me see.
I'm not.
Black forest.
Check mark. See how they're checking it? So if you right click on it, which is a 2-finger click.
You have to make this smaller. That's like half the seat. Like that's what your slide looks like. You're gonna have to click on this and then shrink.
I can't drag it like she did.
I thought I was doing good. You are doing good.
Yeah, it's back over here.
And you can control V. We'll paste it. So click control and then V. She just did that. And now if you grab the corner.
Oh, we do need because we're done with that stuff.
Right there.
Yeah, you can
move it order.
look at
And
it.
we went
You might have to scoot her to this over.
So you can't find, you don't see where she's talking about.
I'm gonna scoot her to this over.
Thank you.
So I was able to put down.
So this is going to be the overall describing. I'm going to bring it up to number 1. And then you're going to talk about the process, and then you're going to talk about the learning from the process. And then I'm going to talk about the internalization, the caring for something positive.
Most groups are finished, and we've got, I think, one group that is just finishing up. So we're going to share these in just a moment. I'm going to let Jada take over, and she can talk about how what we're going to do that. We're going to share these out. So the idea, remember, just to make sure we're all on the same page, is a pitch. So how are you going to sell this concept of a sustainable best practice, Nelson County? What kind of impact is this going to have?
Oh, sweet. Yes. So, now because that, now Christy, no, actually, Melissa your idea? I was going to stop.
Yeah, I'll cheer you on.
Did somebody say they were going first?
I'll be
Yes. Let's see here. We're going to have community spotlight.
I can't put words in your mouth.
Okay, great, look here. They are very savvy. Oh, there's a Tommy Nelson people over there, that's why.
Do you have the clicker? We can give them the clicker? Yeah.
All right, so ours is Community Spotlight. We wanted to put a bi-monthly focus on a business or local attraction, and we thought we could do it in all grade levels, and that would get the kids at different grade levels interested, and then that would promote that business, because there's so many places in the county that we don't even know what they offer. So it's a focus on local business or attraction, bi-monthly, to promote community awareness and growth. All right, so first thing we did was Open Kentucky Home, because there are so many people in Nelson County that probably have never even been there that live here. So this program will promote awareness of each grade level based on an appropriate lesson for that grade level. And like kindergartners could just color a picture of Oak Kentucky Home and be able to say what it is, to be able to say what that place is. That's one of the geography things of place. Fourth grade might be, since they're the ones who study Kentucky geography, then they could actually take a tour of the home. Eighth graders would attend the Stephen Foster story perhaps, and then learn the history of the mansion and how it's connected to the Rowan family. And then high schoolers could be tasked with researching the budget, the maintenance of the property, and as well as the impact of that on our community. So that's one example at different grade levels. All right, so another one we did was Old Bloomfield Meeting Hall, because we don't want to just promote Bardstown, we want to get out into the entire county. So second grade, this time we didn't do the same grade level. So second grade, we visit and experience the site, because maybe that's more to what they could do in this case. So bowling, we think, is offered there. We're not really sure. And anybody from Bloomfield?
Yes, bowling. Yes.
Okay, so bowling, and then I think skating, right? So second graders could probably do both of those, hopefully not drop the ball in the foot. Seventh graders could perhaps design an advertisement for the activities that are available there at the Old Bloomfield Meeting Hall. And then high schoolers could study the architecture style of the building, and then also, since it's been renovated, they could study the before and after blueprints or the before and after plans for the building itself.
And the Brockheimers have really done a lot to it.
Yes. Yeah. And then the sustainability of our impact of the project would span all grade levels, and it allows community development and promotion. Businesses would be financially impacted, hopefully, due to more exposure. Instead of going off to Louisville for a field trip, maybe we could just do them right here. You know, we've got a lot to offer here, and I think we don't see that sometimes. and schools will develop relationships with the community. You know, just put it on school announcements that, you know, this is the Spotlight community, put it in the newspaper, put it on the radio, that this could really be something that could impact the community. Any questions?
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Pass the clicker.
Okay, we'll just go back there.
Click, we just have one spot, right?
No, sorry.
Some of them with slides.
No, we're using them all. Okay, Sean, are you putting it up, Melissa?
Uh-huh.
So you're starting with our overall. I can do
Okay, that's fine. We started with a problem that all the schools seem to have right now, with no weed eating. We let them mow people, get off the mower where they're not supposed to. And then we kind of fed into the fact that some of the schools are looking pretty rough outside. I know that our project group's doing a little landscaping, but maybe letting the schools start by landscaping and then working their way inside to other things such as the recycling stuff you see in the picture.
Okay, so it's easy going green. We looked up and there's like a website that had a bunch of easy steps to follow. And it just talked about starting early. So if you wanted to really get started, start in like January, start planning before it's growing season. And it said to start small. Send home a wish list, because that's where we can get the community involved for donating maybe like old tools and different plants and vegetables and things like that. To choose your plants, to get a good head start, it talked about that if you wanted to start going ahead and growing the plants in your own in the classroom before you take them outside to when it's growing season. And then the way to get into all of the schools, it's the like plan to upkeep. So we were talking about, you know, first grade maybe taking over August, and the whole month of August, that's going to be their responsibility to do the upkeep and plant and pull the weeds. And then maybe October will be second grade and go through all the grades in the certain school. And then the last one was to create a routine. So within those grades, they would have to have a certain routine, like, okay, this class is going to go in the morning on Wednesdays, and this class might go on Thursdays in the afternoon, and make it that way.
Okay, and you can enhance learning through this project with an outdoor classroom. This can be used to have students study the life cycles of plants and flowers. This can be habitats for insects, and that can be studied as well. Journaling for science can also be used. And there's just endless possibilities of what the students could do once this project is up and going, and how it could be used to enhance learning, bringing that classroom from inside to the outside.
So we started on the outside and solving a real problem that we have in our particular community district-wide. But what we're really wanting to do, or in addition, what we want this to grow to is, and I read somewhere recently that giving kids something to care about or to care for helps to build an empathetic culture and a cooperative culture. So we want this to come from the outside in. We give them the grounds, et cetera, to care for, but we want them to begin to internalize that caring culture even on the inside. So if you're at a school, for example, that has management issues or behavior issues, starting with something physical and tangible for them to care for. So we're wanting to go from this to the slide that you saw in the very beginning, where the students are the ones that are sustaining, and not only sustaining the grounds or the physical aspect, but internalizing this culture of caring about something and having pride in their school and pride in their work ethic. And this goes all the way up the ladder to high school, with kids being college and career ready and having pride in their work. That's it. Oh. Oh, it doesn't actually, you gotta hold that on there. Didn't click it there.
We are the second one. We can do the.
Oh, can you change it, go to share, and then share will can view. I'm not going to request access to you on your email.
With who?
Just change it to anyone with a link can view. Oh, you got it, yeah. I think I should be able to, if you changed it to that, I should be able to get it now.
Did you refresh for us?
Okay. Okay, so ours is a, we can do it, and I'm sorry, I believe those could be beer cans, but that's okay. They all bring in money. So, we decided that the schools could, start a can recycling campaign within all the schools of Nelson County, and the students would, we would just facilitate, and the students would lead the campaign. And it could start with like the vocational students building something at each school where the cans would be turned in. I did this program at a school that I used to teach at, and like the 8th graders did it as a fundraiser for their 8th grade trip or whatever. But if every school was doing it and bringing those cans in, and they could, you know, one of the roles of the students would be to talk to their parents about the importance of that recycling, designating a spot at the household where the cans would be kept, figuring out when you would turn the cans in. They could be turned in any time of the day, so it wouldn't be that the students had to bring the cans in. The parents can drop them off anytime. And then organizing parents or someone within the building, maybe rotating through the grade levels or whatever, to turn the cans in, get the money, then using that money with input from the kids for either outdoor classroom ideas, materials for STEM labs. Something that I thought about, if you did an outdoor classroom and they did garden, they could even take their things that they've grown to our farmers market, and they would get that experience, or donate to our community food bank where people would get fresh foods as well. So anyway, you could get the whole community involved. It wouldn't have to be just that you had students at that school. Everyone has cans, and a lot of people just throw them away instead of, we could advertise in the local newspapers that, you know, it's a Nelson County school county-wide recycling campaign that could definitely continue on, because people will always have cans to recycle.
And beer cans.
Yes. And I bet we'll talk
Pass the clicker. Got it.
All right, we decided to try to buy local in downtown Bardstown. Looking at supporting local businesses, keeps the money in Bardstown, in the community, rather than sending it out of town. About 2 decades ago, Bardstown decided to put a 1% extra tax on all restaurants. We figure if they can do that, they can also take away tax and give tax incentives to not only patrons, but the businesses starting up. It reduces pressure on existing businesses, well, it makes it easier for new businesses getting started. Small businesses can succeed with support from the community. This will lead to better services, products locally, and less dependence on the big cities and the big box stores. So, I mean, it is a sustainable circle. Commitment by community to support. Community support in local businesses creates a two-way street in commitment from local businesses and creating better services for the community. How long does this go on, Carl?
I'm a little bit wordy, I apologize.
That's okay.
I think there's 2 more in your.
Carl came up with the flow chart and he did a great job. Community pride in products and services, filtering down from the pride of being made in the USA, local pride in community products and services being homegrown can help sustain local businesses. With local businesses and local community are working hand in hand to create jobs, products, and services that are sustainable. Businesses and communities can develop a commitment to each other. Improved economy of Bardstown. This leads to an economy that can become self-sustaining for generations to come. Everybody benefits, which, you know, everybody goes to big box stores. That's why we looked at tax breaks for the smaller ones, because the big box stores always give cheaper prices. So if we give tax breaks to the small businesses, they can pass that on to the consumer. And that's everything.
Okay, so I
Yes, you did.
You just missed it.
What did you say?
Can we go to, like, maybe what is PBL slide? What is PBL slide? And, what I want you all to vote. If we, like, right now, had to pick one of these to implement.
This?
Yeah, and can we, like,
Which one are you on?
like, do a new one where we could put some notes, like, which one would you all pick? Like, in my mind, I was thinking about passing out Post-it notes.
So what is PDL? Because that's what we were supposed to do just now, right? It's already set up. It's set up.
Yeah, like which, after hearing all these things, all these different kind of ideas, what would you all pick as an idea to try to implement as a group? We had to pick one.
I think the cans would be probably the easiest and quickest to hit the ground running with.
Okay. Which project had the most potential impact in Russell County? What do you think? Could impact the most people in Russell County?
I forget what it was called. Where they were traveling around to different places and getting to know their community. Because that would pull
community spotlight.
Well, in our case too, you know, if you take a class somewhere, the kids are obviously going to say when they go home, hey, let's go here, and then the family's going to go there.
Well, it gets a lot of people on the other end that would host, that's the word I'm looking for, that would host the kids.
Yes, it would create incentives, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And
it could be
And there's
expanded
so
to
many
do a
places
two-way thing.
around the county that you can go to. You know, Boston, we've got promotional wood products, and New Haven's got the railway museum, and you
Other
know,
things that you even know
and
about.
stuff that if you don't live in Boston, you don't know what promotional wood products does in our school. You know, so.
When you start making those connections in the community, they want to start participating in the things that you're doing as well, which then comes money and.
We definitely like it. I mean, as a whole district, I think we like that.
The only money that would require is transportation.
Right.
And feeding them, which you can have a bag lunch maybe. Right.
Of the projects that we've heard that people came up with, is there one that you felt like had real student investment or could be turned in a way that could be really student driven and something that students could like take off with it? And is there any of these that stand out? Or could you think of ways of taking what you came up with and like maybe, because you have to have some parameters, but maybe then giving it to Jada or students and saying, okay, this is what we've come up with. Now you all figure out what you could do with that, you know, and how you could make it more student friendly. Good. Which one do you think wins? Who are we going to pick as a winner? Jada, who would you pick as a winner? Which one?
There we go.
You were supposed to be the judge here.
I like them all.
Good answer. Okay. Well, you can give prizes. You can sugar everybody up. So what we would do, and I know, guys, I so appreciate your time because I know you're really tired, and I know you guys got done on Friday, and you're probably like looking at the time and being like, I gotta get out of here. I really appreciate you guys holding strong here with this. What I would do from this point is, I would, if we had the time, I would start kind of like building these projects up and making community contacts, figure out how we can turn these into workable projects that you can implement. You can still do this. These are things that you can implement this year. My question is, where do you want to go? We've got like, and I know you're going to say, oh, right, but what are your all's thoughts, but to kind of gauge where we are? Do you all have questions? Do you have questions for each other? Are there resources that you have used that you've really loved and think that it would work in a PBL environment?
The community is a huge resource. I mean, most of the times, if you just call someplace and ask for donations, they will give you some. We've done that for years at Horizons with gardening and landscaping. So they'll just give you stuff for free.
And that's really, for some people, that's really hard. At first, for me, it was really hard. Because I felt like I was engaged. It really helps my students do it. Because then they can bet. And
All we gotta do is just get over it and ask. They say no, it's not personal.
It's gonna be harder to say no to a kid though.
It is hard to say no. It is. And, you know, when they are, it's really hard to say no to an excited high school kid that is like, hey, our teacher told us, you know, we could do this, can you help us? And then they are way more willing.
I would like to see more, like developing something such as that into the students also thinking about what they can give as a community member, because even though a lot of this is focused around our school community, they are members of this community at large, and just asking for donations and just like for them to learn the other side, to internalize this culture of caring.
Right, the empathy. I really, what you said really has
the community, being a part of the community.
Right. Because, and I mean, when you were talking about empathy and like that personal investment stuff, it just made me think of like, I mean, part of the reason why we have animals is not because I like having sticky animals in my room all the time, but
it's true.
Those kids,
it gives us something to
care about. Ones that are like, oh my gosh, you would not think, are like all like lovey-dovey on animals are often the ones that really take an investment and care. So how can we like, we need that in our communities. We need people who are going to invest and you know, support and be participating members and care for each other. So I agree with you.
So just instead of just asking for a donation, maybe you ask the owner of the place to come in.
Right.
And talk to the kids, or the kids go visit, or what have you. I don't know. If you're an elementary school teacher, you have one class.
We've also gotten internships where the kids go and get hired.
I think that is key. You know, a lot of times we ended up having people, some people who are in the professional fields, they don't have a lot of time to invest sometimes, and they're like, we can't come from 10:30 to 10, whatever your class period is. So sometimes like using technology to like connect them, even like if a kid is emailing, you know, that's how we did the architects, we ended up, it was a string of communication, but it was at least some kind of contact, even if they couldn't physically talk to them face to face. What else? Give me a gauge. How are you all feeling? Like, what are you? Do you feel like any of this stuff you can take it and kind of build on it more and use it in your schools?
I like the idea of it, I really do. Because I am about 114 years old, back in the mid-'80s, there was a move on this thing called OBE, Outcome-Based Education, which this reminds me a whole lot of. It was not what do kids know, but what can they show you that they can do. And it was a lot of stuff like this, but we had a hard time with those courses who have standards, statewide testing, timelines.
Right.
I teach biology, and I know there's a lot of little things that we can do from experimenting with different colors of lights, grow plants under different filters of lights, finding time, I guess organizing it better myself as a teacher. Started a few weeks earlier.
I totally agree with you. On there, we didn't even talk about things like grading and assessments, and you know, how do you grade students when it comes to participation? A lot, you know what I mean? Like that is something that has been the most interesting thing. You know, I reflected with our group, and that was one thing that they said to me, you need to do a better job, because you know, keeping track of who is participating and who's not, and who's done this and who's done that. And so there are tricky things that you kind of have to work out. But I think if you're to the point where you want to try, I say just jump in and try a few things this year, and then just see how it goes, and then don't give up, and then try it a little bit again the next year, and then try it. I think it's kind of like a mentality almost of giving up a little bit of control. And you know, sometimes you don't get all that content. You know, I told somebody, and I would not say this to my principal if he were sitting here right now, but you know, sometimes content is important, and I get that. But you know, sometimes the things that kids remember and the things that they take away is not the content that you have like nailed into their heads. It's remembering those internships or, you know, connecting.
But our accountability, I have to push back and say, and if Peterson, for example, who is responsible for U.S. history, could she use some kind of miniature pieces of something like this to drive her content? But if whatever she does not drive her content, it is not worth it for her to do it. She cannot, because everyone's looking at her when we get this work. Yeah. That's her integrity, her reputation on the line.
Right. I
Same thing with Carl,
Yeah.
biology, EOC. So if something like this can drive and be the how and be the driver of content, great. But if it doesn't, like, we just can't, we're not in that situation where we have all that freedom.
Right. Well, and I think too is the vision of the school. It is really and truly about the vision of what your school, you know what I mean, of how you want to teach kids and what you want them to gain.
I'm super projecty, like I have a project with every unit that I do because I don't like quiet or being still.
Right.
So like, do you feel like at the beginning, maybe like when you get new students, is there like scaffolds kind of that you use to like, maybe this is super structured and then this one's not as structured and then they can pick their own things? Because I have a huge issue with kids, like when I let them be creative, they're like, well, is this going to give me like an A or is this what you want? Like if I don't give them
the parameters.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I don't want to give you that. Like, is there something that's, is there like a minimum that you like, if you give them this, then they're comfortable? Because I'm new and I just don't think I know like what the minimum is to give so that they're creative, but where they still feel comfortable with being creative.
Well, and I think, you all can totally jump in too. I think my personality is, and the way kind of I approach things is I want kids to be creative. So I don't always, I'm not always stressed about the grades. And I think when you're talking about, the kids I have that were AP kids, they were flat out. You tell me exactly what I have to do because I want an A+. My mom I will get in trouble if I don't bring home an A+, blah, blah, blah. And they want it. What color do you want it? How big do you want it? You know, that kind of thing. And I don't like that. And so I try to push them out of that kind of stuff. And I try to say, I'm not telling you. You know, and you get parents, I have had parents call and say, okay, so you're in this project, you know, how are they going to get an A? Well, you know what I mean? I don't know, let's figure it out. I'm about pushing people out of the comfort zone. So, you know, but you have to, I don't know what your school culture is like, your climate is like, you know, you're a new teacher, if you don't have tenure. I would not do the things that I do. Honestly, I have tenure. I say that on camera. You know, I have tenure, so I can really push boundaries a lot. But you know, I would always just push yourself a little bit more. And each
I feel like they back me. I have a problem with my kids. Like I give them projects all the time, and that's what I get back. Is like,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's a lot easier to somebody to tell you exactly what to do when you regurgitate it, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're used to, is regurgitation, which is why I don't necessarily handle content. And I know I was regularly stressed about scores and stuff like that, but I don't necessarily think it's the best thing to do. And that's why you kind of also have to find a spot that So I would say, I don't know if I plugged this or not, but if you are thinking about doing some PBL, a really great, I'm going to say, sorry if I repeat myself, but a really great workshop is coming up. UK Next Generation Leadership offers a PBL. They're doing 2 this year, PBL 101 and a PBL 201. It is fantastic. It is a 3 or 4 day long workshop. It's $500 registration fee, but they will take you, these are the experts, they take you through day by day by day. More detailed than what we did with the process, the entire process, lots of revision, lots of review work. It's best if you go together, I think, with a team of people like that you're going to be working with, or that you can kind of develop some projects together. But that's where a lot of this stuff came from. The process and that PBL model is kind of what they use. The contracts is what they use. And then the other one is, you know, another great one is the AFE, Kentucky State University. Like I said, they got a grant. And it may not be too late if the guy's name is Christopher Grimes, he's at KSU. They just wrote a grant for the agriculture food nutrition and education program at KSU to do this really cool PBL type cohort for teachers. So they're going into the second year of this cohort, and they're looking for all different kinds of people from all different kinds of background, not necessarily ag or family consumer science, but they have money and resources, and they have folks at KSU who will actually come to your classroom, professors who will come in and work with your kids and help you develop some different units, and it is by far the absolute best PD I've ever attended in my time of doing PDs. It was really great and very useful. So like the stuff I did with soil sampling, the stuff I did with water sampling, it all came from KSU. They gave me that material, and they gave me the contacts for the experts, to contact. So those are two really great local resources. And I don't know here in Nelson County if you've got anybody else that you can connect with. But on that note, I think that's it, and I appreciate you guys coming and spending your day. And I think you need to do.
Did we find the link?
I just pasted it on the last slide of this particular PD presentation.
Yeah, so before you guys leave, the reflection, right, the evaluation.